everyone, so in today's video I will be talking about the worst books that I read in 2021. Now, I just want to point out before I fully start the video, it's raining outside. I'm sorry if you can hear it, but I don't have any other time to film today, so hopefully you can deal with the sound of the rain in the background. Hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, I just wanted to say that before I started the video. Now, when I say the worst books of 2021, I don't mean that these books are the worst books in the world, obviously. You can like these books, and that's cool, and I can not like these books, and that's cool as well. I say that because one of these books in particular is very popular, and I'm scared that people are gonna come after me for not liking this book. So hopefully that won't happen, but yeah, let's just get into the worst books that I read in 2021. So the first book that I will be talking about in this video is one of the very popular books, and that is Aristotle and Dante, which I hope I pronounced that properly. I probably didn't, but yeah. It's this book, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's very popular. It just had a sequel come out, so yeah, don't come after me for not liking this book, but this was one of the worst books that I read in 2021. I really didn't like it. It was very underwhelming in my opinion and very boring at times, which I did not expect because so many people love this book. So I expected to love it as well, but it was very underwhelming. And I was already very underwhelmed by this book, and then I got to the end of the book, and then they just threw in some transphobia. And I was like, what was that? Why? I already wasn't liking this book, and now they throw in transphobia. Was that necessary? So, yeah, I didn't like this book. I don't know why. It was one of the first books that I read in 2021 as well. And so it tells you just how much I didn't like it, at the fact that now a year later after I've read it, I cannot remember what it was about. I remember that there was something about swimming and transphobia and shoes. And that's it. I can't remember it. It was so boring to me, which feels so bad to say and scary to say as well, because so many people love this book. But I just thought it was boring. And I remember I was reading it and I was really scared because I thought it was boring because so many people love it. And I was like, oh God, I think it's boring. And now people are gonna hate me, but I can't change that opinion. I just think it's boring. So yeah, I regret that I bought this book, and I'm definitely not gonna read the sequel. So yeah, I didn't like it. Sorry if that hurts you. I just didn't like it. Everyone has different opinions. Then the second book on this list, which isn't the second worst book, this is not in any order, but the second book on this list is Safety in Numbers, which this book I actually read with NetGalley. I got an ARC from there, and I read it on my e-reader, so I read it really recently. And I wanted to read it initially because I saw that it had disability representation, but I could already tell just from the description of the book that the disability representation wasn't gonna be great, because it basically called the disabled main character broken. And I was like, okay, let's hope that they don't call her that in the book. Maybe that's just a way to make the story seem interesting. But yeah, that's not what happened. But basically, I wrote a very long Goodreads review on this book, and I am going to talk about this book in my December wrap-up. So you'll hear more about my in-depth thoughts about this book. But basically, there was a lot of ableist things being said, and as a disabled person myself, it made me feel very bad about myself. It was saying that because I'm disabled, I'm never gonna be able to get into a relationship, I'm never gonna find love, nobody's ever gonna love me again just because I'm disabled. Which that's what the main character was saying throughout the book, which I understand making characters say stuff like that. I'm currently writing a book myself, and my main character, who is disabled, does say that, but they're gonna realize that's wrong. They're gonna realize throughout the book that's wrong, and that's not true. Like, just because you're disabled doesn't mean that nobody can love you. And that's what I thought would happen with this book, that the main character would realize that she was wrong, and she did not. Which is strange because she ends up in a relationship with someone. So she should realize, like, hey, I'm disabled and I'm in a relationship. See, disabled people can be loved and fall in love. But I just did not get that impression. Like, she still had so much, like, self-hatred towards the end that it actually made me angry. Like, it was not resolved at all. Like, the main character started at the beginning of the book with hating herself, and at the end she still hated herself. Like, I feel like, to me, she didn't make any progress at all, which just made me so frustrated, because this book could be, this book could have been good. This book could have been a disabled character doesn't think that she can be loved. She falls in love with someone, the person falls in love with her back, and she realizes that disabled people can be loved. Like, that could have been one of the messages of the book, but it just wasn't. And you can already tell from the way that I'm talking about this that I'm really angry at this. Like, I just hated it. Like, the last 50 pages of this book, I was just like hate reading it, which that almost like never happens. And like, this was one of the first books that I read on my e-reader, and I was still figuring out like how to type like notes at like certain sentences. And the last 50 pages of this book, I was like making notes, and like every single one of them was just me like swearing. Like, just being like mad at the character for like it's the end of the book and you still have like these opinions that are so like toxic, especially to like other disabled people. Like, I hated it and I wanted to love it so bad. Like, I hoped that it would end well. Like, the beginning of the book made me so uncomfortable, and I thought maybe it will pay off in the end. Maybe she will retract all of those statements and be like, that was wrong. I shouldn't have thought like that. And that just didn't happen. Which just made me so angry, because again, you can make a character talk like that about themselves and about their disability. You can do that. Because a lot of disabled people go through that, where they just hate their body. That happens. That happens to me as well. Like, I'm going through that right now. Since the beginning of the year, I've been going through that. But you need to make your main character realize towards the end of the book that that's not true. That just because they're disabled doesn't mean that they're unworthy of anything. Like love and respect and stuff like that. And again, this book could have been good, but it wasn't. And this wasn't supposed to be a rant. Like I mentioned like earlier in this video when I started talking about this book, that I was going to talk about it in depth in my December wrap-up, which I guess I'm just going to start ranting again in that wrap-up, because I just couldn't stop myself now. So yeah, I didn't like this book. Let's just move on before I start ranting about it more. I'll link like my Goodreads down below so you can also read the review that I wrote for it, because it's a lot more like articulate. So yeah, go read it, I guess, and then see for yourself if you still want to read the book, which you can still read, obviously. I'm not going to stop you from that, because maybe you will love it, but me as a disabled person, I did not like it. So yeah. So the next book on this list is Upright Women Wanted. Now, I had a lot of high expectations for this book, but it just was a bit boring at times. Kind of like with the first book that I mentioned, I can't really remember a lot of the things that happened in this book. And I was confused like a lot of the time while I was reading this. So yeah, that's like the only thing that I didn't like about this book. Like, I don't really have like a rant review like the previous book. I just thought this book was a bit boring. So yeah, that's very like anticlimactic, like comparing it to the last review. But yeah, I just thought this one was a bit boring. I expected a bit more. So yeah, but it wasn't like too bad. So yeah. Then the next book on this list is also a book that I thought was a bit boring, but I know that a lot of people love it, and that is Peter Pan. Now, I didn't grow up reading or watching like any like fairy tales, like Disney movies. I didn't really grow up with that, because I don't know why, I just didn't like them that much. But yeah, I decided to read Peter Pan because I have the book, and I really didn't like it. It was boring, again, like I just said. And even though I thought it was boring and I was like struggling my way through it, even though it's really short, I still got like a little bit emotional at like the end, and I really disliked that. Like, I spent the whole book being like bored, and then you try and make me cry at the end. That's not allowed. I'm not allowing it. That's really disrespectful. Don't do that. Like, I'm supposed to be bored throughout the entire book. Don't try to change my feelings towards the end of the book. I don't like that. But yeah, I know that a lot of people really love this book. I can understand why, like, it probably has like a lot of nostalgia surrounding it, but I don't have that nostalgia. So yeah, I just thought it was a bit boring. I'm probably not gonna read like any other like fairy tales, things like that anymore anytime soon. But yeah, at least I read it, I guess. So yeah. Then the next book is another book that's really popular, and again, I'm really scared to talk about it and put it on this list, even though it wasn't as bad as like the other books on this list, I feel like. But it was still very underwhelming, and that's why it's on this list, and that is Radio Silence, which I know that people are probably going to be mad at me for putting this on this list, but I just thought it was underwhelming. Like, I didn't think it was that interesting. I can barely remember the storyline, and I was just like confused a lot of the time. I am gonna give this author like another try with, I think, probably like their book Loveless, because that has like an asexual character, I think. So I'm probably gonna give that book a try. But yeah, this book, I thought it was a bit boring, which again, I didn't expect that. Like, I expected to love this book because so many people love it, but I just thought it was boring. Like, it wasn't as bad as like some of the previous books, but yeah, it was still very underwhelming, which, yeah, I didn't expect that. So yeah, I'm gonna put this book down now before people actually come to my house with like pitchforks. So yeah, this is not a bad book. Like, none of these books on this list are technically bad books. I just didn't like them. Like, these are just like all of my things, all the things I say in this video are just like opinions. So yeah, don't come after me. I'm gonna give this author another try. So yeah, maybe this book just wasn't it for me. So yeah. And then now I'm gonna mention some, I already mentioned this in my best books of 2021 video, but I cannot pronounce this word, like the first word. I cannot pronounce it. So yeah, I'm gonna mention a couple of these. So let's just get into them, because it's still very dark outside and I'm scared the footage is gonna be really bad. Hopefully it won't be, but yeah, we'll see, I guess. The first book on this mini list is The Strange Library. Now, I also kind of had high expectations for this because of the author. Like, they're very like famous. So yeah, I had high expectations for this. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I am gonna give the author like another try, and hopefully I will like some of his other books more. But yeah, this book was just, as the title suggests, a bit strange, which I mentioned this in the wrap-up of the month that I read this book in, but I feel like this book would be great as like an illustration book, which I read it as an audiobook, and I don't think that works very well. But yeah, maybe someday I'll be able to read the illustrated version. I don't know if there is one, but if there is, I'm probably gonna see if I can read it somewhere, and if it's not too expensive. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't one of the worst books I read this year. It was just not the right format, I think. So yeah. Then the next book is Who K-Pop BTS. This is basically like an informational book about BTS. I'm reading like informational books about BTS for a video. Yeah, I read this as an audiobook, and the voice acting in this was really cringy. Like, I hated it so much. Like, I could barely get through it, and the book is like under an hour long, I think. So it's not even that long, but it felt like it was like hours long, and it was like taking years off my life trying to listen to it. But yeah, it was really cringy. I'm not going to talk more about it because I'm going to talk about it in like my video about these books. So yeah. Then the next book on this list is actually not a book, it's a manga, and I typically don't put mangas on these types of lists, but I felt the need to add it because otherwise it only would have had like 2 this. So yeah, I'm gonna add this one anyway, and that is the first volume of Komi Can't Communicate. I've already talked about this in my November wrap-up, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I was really underwhelmed by this, especially because I know how much people love it. And I was expecting to love it. As I mentioned in the video, like you can watch it for more like an in-depth review about it. But yeah, I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would. Watch the video to know more about it. So yeah, that was the last book on this list, or on this mini list, I guess. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope the lighting and like the sound of the rain wasn't too distracting. But yeah, I'm sorry for like ranting a bit about that one book in the beginning. I'm sure it was really annoying, but stuff like that really like bothers me as a disabled person. Again, like no disrespect to like the author or anything like that, or any of the authors of like the books on this list, but yeah, it just really bothered me, like a lot of the stuff that I mentioned. I'm sorry if it was like weird that I was ranting like that, because I don't usually do that, but stuff like that just really bothers me, especially because again, I'm disabled and I want good disability representation, and when I see books like this, I'm just scared that people are gonna read it and think stuff like this as well, especially because it doesn't get corrected at the end. So yeah, I'm not gonna rant about it more. I'll talk about it more in like my December wrap-up. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I'm glad you watched until the end and you watched like through my rant. I'm sure it was a bit annoying, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to, you can put like some of your like worst books of 2021 down below. I would love to know. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and bye.